I can't go down.
There is not an agreement with the electronic line calling system.
The machine cheated her, and the entire tennis world saw it happen in real time. Right. Stop scrolling. Stop everything. Because what we are about to show you is one of the most jaw-dropping, blood-boiling, genuinely outrageous moments in recent tennis history. And it happened in broad daylight, on camera, in front of thousands of fans inside one of the most prestigious clay court tournaments on the planet. We are talking about a world number 2, one of the most stoic, composed, ice-in-her-veins competitors in the entire sport, absolutely losing her mind at an umpire. And the terrifying part is that she was 100% right to do it. The machine called a ball in. The clay said it was out. The camera showed it was out. The mark on the court, that beautiful, undeniable, centuries-old receipt that clay courts leave every single time a ball bounces, showed it was out. And yet the point stood. Because the computer said so. Welcome to the Elena Rybakina versus Zhang Qinwen controversy at the 2026 Madrid Open. The moment that has blown the lid off a scandal that the tennis world has been whispering about for months, and the conversation that could fundamentally change how this sport is officiated forever. Let's get into it. First, let's set the scene. Because context here is everything. Elena Rybakina is not a player who does drama. She is not a player who argues with officials, throws rackets, or performs for the crowd. If there is a scale of on-court emotional expression in professional tennis, with players like Nick Kyrgios at one end and a marble statue at the other, Rybakina is somewhere close to the marble statue. She is famously, legendarily, almost robotically composed. She won the Australian Open this year. She reached the finals of Miami and the semifinals of Indian Wells. She captured the Stuttgart title just a week before arriving in Madrid. This is a player operating at the absolute peak of the sport, in the form of her life, and carrying the kind of confidence that only comes from stringing together results like that. So when Elena Rybakina, of all people, starts pointing at a clay mark, gesturing with her fingers, raising her voice, and telling the umpire that the system is wrong and this is not a joke, you pay very close attention. Because if she is angry, something is genuinely, seriously wrong. Here is exactly what happened. It was the third round of the WTA 1000 Madrid Open, and Rybakina found herself in a tough 3-set battle against China's Zhang Qinwen, a powerful, athletic baseline player who had taken the first set 6-4 through sharp first serve execution and controlled baseline aggression. The second set was tight, both players holding serve comfortably, neither able to create the kind of sustained pressure needed to break through. And then, with Zhang serving at 4-3 in the second set and leading 30-0 on her service game, a delivery from Zhang was called in by the Hawkeye electronic line calling system as an ace. Game, set, match? Not quite, because Rybakina walked up to the baseline, looked down at the clay court, and saw something that made his stomach drop. The mark left by that ball was not inside the service box. It was not touching the line. It was out. Clearly, visibly, undeniably out. The red clay had done what red clay has done for over a century. It had left a perfect physical record of exactly where the ball landed. And where it landed was outside the line. What followed was one of the most uncomfortable, most revealing exchanges between a player and a chair umpire that this sport has produced in years. Rybakina approached the chair and asked umpire Julie gently to come down and look at the mark. The umpire's response was a masterclass in bureaucratic helplessness. She said she could not go down. She said that how it looks from there and how it usually looks are different things. She said that from where she was sitting, the ball appeared to be just touching the line. And Rybakina, still pointing at a mark that the television cameras were now also clearly showing to be outside the line, looked up at her with the expression of a woman who genuinely cannot believe what she is hearing and said the words that have since echoed around the tennis world. Are you kidding me? The system is wrong. This is not a joke. It is absolutely wrong. And the umpire, bound by tournament protocol, looked back at her and said something even more extraordinary. That is what I have to go with. The call stands. The point stands. The ace stands. And Elena Rybakina, world number 2, winner of the Australian Open, was told to accept a point she could prove with her own eyes was stolen from her, because a computer program said otherwise. Now, let's talk about why this matters so much beyond just 1 point in one match. Because this is not the first time this has happened to the Madrid Open, and the pattern here is deeply, genuinely alarming for the future of how this sport is officiated. Cast your minds back to the 2025 Madrid Open, just 12 months ago, where Alexander Zverev found himself in an almost identical situation. A ball mark on the clay was clearly out. The electronic system called it in. Zverev, so frustrated he could barely speak, grabbed his phone and took a photograph of the mark as evidence of the injustice. The umpire, rather than acknowledging the obvious problem, warned him for taking a picture. He was warned for documenting proof that the technology had failed. That extraordinary moment barely caused the conversation it deserved at the time. And now here we are again, different player, same court, same technology, same result. Rybakina stated afterwards that her situation was very similar to what Zverev experienced, describing the mark as being right in front of the umpire's nose, something that was simply impossible to ignore. She called it a stolen point, and she said she would no longer be able to trust the system. To understand why this problem keeps happening specifically in Madrid and specifically on clay, you need to understand something fundamental about how the Hawkeye electronic line calling technology works, and why clay courts present a challenge that the system was never perfectly designed to handle. Hawkeye operates by deploying multiple high-speed cameras around the court, capturing the ball's trajectory from the moment it leaves the racket to the moment it lands. A computer then calculates, in real time, exactly where the ball bounced based on that trajectory data. On hard courts and grass courts, where the surface is stable, consistent, and leaves no physical trace of where the ball landed, this technology is essentially the gold standard. It is faster, more accurate, and more consistent than human line judges. On those surfaces, the computers are simply better than people at this particular task. But clay courts are a fundamentally different proposition. Clay is a living, shifting surface. It changes from match to match, from hour to hour, from one set of footprints to the next. Every ball bounce displaces the surface. Every slide by a player alters the court conditions. Hawkeye was designed on the assumption that the court surface is stable enough for its camera calculations to be accurate. On clay, that assumption regularly breaks down. The clay moves, the surface changes, and the system needs constant recalibration, something that costs around 30 minutes per court per match to do properly and makes tournament scheduling an absolute nightmare at scale. More critically, clay courts have a natural alternative that is not available on any other surface: the physical mark. Every single time a ball lands on clay, it leaves an undeniable, visible record of exactly where it touched down. This is not an approximation. This is not a computer estimate. This is physical evidence, sitting right there on the surface, available for any human being with functioning eyes to examine and interpret. And that is precisely why Roland Garros, the only Grand Slam played on clay, has steadfastly, consistently, repeatedly refused to adopt electronic line calling. The French Tennis Federation has taken the position that when you have the physical mark on the clay, you already have something more reliable than any camera system. You have reality itself. Madrid does not share that philosophy. Madrid has gone all in on Hawkeye, and the umpires at the Madrid Open are under explicit instructions that they cannot overrule the electronic system under any circumstances. They cannot step down from their chair.
Welcome back, guys. I'm looking to reach 1,000 subs. Support me by clicking the subscribe button.